I want to set the tone for this conversation a bit. When I met with Vinod in the Valley a couple of weeks back, we were kind of having a conversation about some stuff, and I was telling him about this, and I was telling him about that, and really his eyes were glazing over. He wasn't interested in anything I was talking about. And I said to him, I'm like, you know what? There's this really incredible conference. We're doing this event. It's really great. It's going to have entrepreneurs there, and we're kind of like trying to inspire the next generation of entrepreneurs. His eyes lit up. And he immediately said to me, he goes, Bilal, I'll do this on one condition and one condition only, that you pack the room full of entrepreneurs or prospective entrepreneurs. And I think that's a testament to how deeply kind of affectionate and how much Vinod cares about not only kind of inspiring this generation of entrepreneurs, but really talking about a lot of the experiences, a lot of the work he's done, and focusing exclusively on entrepreneurs. So, Vinod?
My Twitter handle @Vinod Khosla tagline is entrepreneurship zealot. That's my tagline.
Entrepreneurship zealot.
I love talking to entrepreneurs.
Yeah, absolutely. So on that note, I wanted to start the first part of our conversation speaking directly to the entrepreneurs in the room and the prospective entrepreneurs in the room. You talk a lot about, you've been in the Valley during kind of obviously an incredible period of growth and opportunity. You've seen a lot. You've invested in some of the most promising entrepreneurs in the world. And you talk a lot about kind of risk and that relationship with entrepreneurship. And I wanted to kind of give you an opportunity to talk a little bit about what risk means and how it relates to the entrepreneurial journey and how many in the room should be thinking about that.
My fundamental view is most people in the other world don't like failure, and they reduce risk where they increase their probability of success, but reduce the consequences of success to inconsequential. So it behooves us as entrepreneurs to do what society needs, which is cause most large change. I'd rather reduce my probability of success and increase the consequences of success by trying bolder, bigger things, and in my case, backing entrepreneurs who are trying bigger, bolder things. And my job then becomes to egg them on to be as great as they can be, sometimes push them to be as big as they can be. That's really exciting and fun. And at a very macro level, I have a fundamental belief that 700 million people on this planet have a rich lifestyle, and can be energy rich, it can be cash rich, it can be information and education rich, healthcare rich. 7 billion people want that lifestyle. We cannot have 10 times the resources, and the only solution is technology driven by entrepreneurial energy. So it's almost a religion for me that the power of ideas and technology driven by entrepreneurial energy is the only solution. It's not a complete solution, but it is absolutely necessary, if not sufficient, to solve the world's problems.
Right.
And I get really excited, and this is why entrepreneurs who do new things and try new things get me really, really going.
Yeah, and on that note about trying new things, you talk a lot about experiments and what really makes Silicon Valley, Silicon Valley. I mean, it's got a talent pool, it's got capital, it's got all the things that many regions around the world have. But talk a little bit about this idea of experiments.
Yeah, so there's a Harvard Business School case on which the first thing is a quote from me saying, "My willingness to fail gives me the ability to succeed. I'd rather try and fail than fail to try," and that isn't an original. I think Seneca said that. That's what really causes most large change. That, supported by an ecology of entrepreneurship, it's an ecosystem. It really is an ecology, is what makes Silicon Valley what it is and where other parts of the world can replicate it. And Toronto is sort of very exciting that way. If you look at what I call Silicon Valley, it's not a place, it's a culture. It's a culture, it's an ecology, it's a mindset. And I think I noticed that here in Toronto too. I told Bilal this morning we met with a whole lot of companies, probably every half hour on the dot this morning, back to back. So it was nice to find 5 minutes backstage waiting to come on as a breather. Yes. I caught up with email. But it's really great to find that culture here. And I was telling Bilal, it's about as exciting and high quality a set of companies and entrepreneurs as I've seen anywhere. So congratulations, Toronto. Wow.
Wow.
By the way, I have a habit of never giving a compliment when it's not deserved. So that is serious. I wouldn't say it if I didn't mean it.
I think that's important to note. I mean,
I'm known for my
Vinod
bluntness.
is known for his bluntness and really doesn't go there. But I think that's a testament to how hard this ecosystem's been working and how the talent pool is really developing here. That's incredibly exciting. I want to get real a little bit about entrepreneurship. Many entrepreneurs in the room, many of them are trying to figure out and navigate kind of the complexities of building a company and scaling and growing. And they see some companies that have kind of successfully exited or have gone public or have done incredible things. You talk really honestly about the nature of luck. And I'd like to just have a bit of a conversation about that and kind of put it out there.
Yeah. So let's look at it two ways, from society's side and from the entrepreneur's side. From society's side, most of the world, the institutional world, and by that I mean the big companies, the Nortels, which disappeared, the AT&Ts, the Ciscos, the Rogers, you pick your favorite. Their view is improbable is unimportant. My view is the only important thing is some improbable. It's just we don't know which improbable. Almost certainly when you have 3,000 entrepreneurs at a festival like this, you're going to see some important things come out of it. So that's, societally speaking, why improbables are really the only important thing. And institutions, banks, financiers, UN, governments, they're just mostly to keep things getting out of control and stay static. They get in the way. But invention and big leaps for society come from the entrepreneurial improbable side. Yeah. So remember, only improbables are important. From the entrepreneur's side, you're taking on a very hard task. It's not a surprise that most entrepreneurs fail. Right? It's well understood. Two things I'd say. Keep in mind that you only control some of the variables that make you successful. I was telling Bilal, when we started Sun, I used to say there's 3 or 4 things that we could control of the top 10 that would cause our success or failure. We had some competitors who did some, fortunately, very dumb things, and that was 3 of the factors, and the other things were just luck. So luck plays a large part in this. I was telling my partner, Sven, who's here with me, on the plane last night, flying over here, that for many entrepreneurs, what's important is to stay alive long enough to get lucky.
That's incredible. That's right.
You sort of do all the right things, but that's not sufficient. And so when you have those hard days, when those down days, and anybody who's been an entrepreneur knows you have really down days, and it can be really depressing. Entrepreneurship is hard. It's glorified because the press picks up the successes. For those of you, and if there's that many entrepreneurs, some of you are really struggling with it, it is very hard. And the guys who you read about just got lucky, in addition to being smart and doing the right things. And keep that in mind and keep, now, that doesn't mean you stop asking hard questions of,
Right.
Can I pivot? Can I change tactics? Can I, be obstinate about your vision, but be really flexible about your tactics and try and survive long enough so the luck factors play in your favor.
Yeah, I think you said it really well earlier, that entrepreneurs have to do everything right and then get lucky. And I think that's kind of pretty meaningful. Entrepreneurs in the room today are bombarded with advice, especially the early entrepreneurs. They're seeking it, they're looking for it, and they'll take it from anywhere. Now, we had a really interesting conversation earlier about how toxic that could potentially be as well. I'd love to hear your thoughts.
Look, as an entrepreneur, you get a lot of advice. The hardest thing an entrepreneur does is whose advice to take on what topic, right? Because everybody will give you advice. They have no skin in the game, mostly, so it's easy to mouth off. I have very little respect for people who don't take risks themselves and want to give advice on what you should do. That's not to say don't listen. Take every bit of input you can get. I even tell entrepreneurs, don't do this to me, but pitch other VCs to see what questions they raise, because that is valuable information for you, even if you never plan to raise money. Getting the most questions is very, very important, getting the most information from others, but then you have to be very, very selective on how to weight that opinion. And this is very tricky, because if you ask a VP of marketing at IBM, they have no context about what marketing really is when you don't have a 50-year history on a product, right? It's a very different beast. So just because somebody has a title doesn't mean they're qualified to advise you, right? So it's really, really important to be suck in as much input, as much critique, and critique is way more valuable than, hey, you're doing a great job. But then make the decision yourself after waiting advice. And there's no magic formula on whose advice to take. But let me say the following. I spend a lot of time trying to do things to help entrepreneurs. Simple idea. If you're a technical founder trying to start a company, and you have to hire a CFO or a VP of marketing, you have no friggin' idea what those roles do, right? So instead of having a naive assumption about what a marketing VP does, you have to sort of figure out what you're looking for first before you start looking for the person. So I have a blog on my website called The Art of Hiring. It's something like that. Meant to say, if you're hiring in an area you don't really know, how do you go about it? So there's a whole bunch of stuff like that on our website, just meant to be available to all entrepreneurs.
Awesome. That's fantastic. I want to switch gears a bit here and take us back to an article that you wrote in Forbes of November of 2014. The title of that article was "The Next Technological Revolution Will Create Abundance and Income Disparity." Fast forward a couple of years, and you talked in that article about machine learning and big data. We now know that that's all artificial intelligence. And Toronto's got this incredible, we're having a renaissance of kind of AI in Toronto here. And we're this incredible talent pool building really sophisticated technologies. But you hear a lot in the media about both the promise of AI, the great promise, but also the fear. And you've got folks like Elon Musk, people you have conversations with, Elon Musk talking from one way, and then you've got state leaders like Putin who are talking about power dynamics that play out globally. Can you talk a little bit about societal impact of this space and what should we be thinking about?
Look, AI is a technology. In fact, I first wrote about it in January of 2012 when I wrote 2 blogs, successive weeks, both in January of 2012. First one's called, Do We Need Doctors? There is nothing a human being should do as part of doctoring. Right? It's just a silly idea that they can understand the full complexity of 3,000 metabolic pathways in the body, 15,000 diseases, 15,000 basic procedures or drugs or things you can prescribe. And on any important topic, there's probably 5,000 recent publications in the last year, whether it's diabetes or breast cancer or pick your favorite. Nobody can keep track of that. It's not a task for humans. And so in 2012, I postulated this idea of do we need doctors. My second blog was do we need teachers? Because there's way too much complexity in helping each student, and a personal tutor is needed for every young student. And the blog in 2014 was more about we'll have AI do so much. We'll have all the traditional metrics look good. GDP growth, productivity growth, so hence the great abundance, but with increasing disparity because fewer and fewer people are doing more of the high-value work and getting the benefits of it. I actually think while capitalism was designed for an area where economic production efficiency was the most important variable, going forward, income disparity will be a more important variable than GDP growth. And economists will have to rethink not what economics is, but what our objectives as a society should be. And I wrote about income disparity in 2014. I'd go a step further. And in the next day or so, I have a blog I'm publishing on AI, and it's about being scared of the right things. So Elon Musk does talk about sentient AI. I think it's the wrong thing to be worried about today. Now, I do think he has a point, and I do think we should discuss it. And like any strong, powerful technology, it can be used for good or bad. And we have to worry about both aspects of it. I've talked about all the good AI can do, but there's also a bad side. Now, sentient AI is a whole different kind of animal, but I think we don't know enough today to worry about it. That means we should discuss it, but we can't start regulating on it today.
Right.
Now, much scarier to me, and this is what my blog is about, is not AI gone rogue. It's AI in bad hands. AI in nation-states' hands that have bad objectives, AI in criminal hands, or other bad actors. That's way more worrisome, and almost certainly it'll be a major problem in the next 5 to 10 years. This is not something that's 20 years away. This is immediate, and Putin hacked our election. Now, what more important bad thing can happen? Now, I don't know if they used AI or not. I suspect not a whole lot. And by the way, I don't invest in cybersecurity startups that don't use AI anymore. It's the wrong way. It's sort of rule-based things. And I want to make sure we cover one other topic, which is beyond AI.
Of course, we've got plenty of time.
But this whole idea of AI in bad hands is really worrisome to me, and we should worry about it. It's like a nation state could be the only one who has the equivalent of the nuclear bomb or the atomic bomb when we bombed Hiroshima. Japan had no choice but to surrender. And so it has huge geopolitical implications. I know we don't have a lot of time. I want to say one thing. AI is a very powerful tool. I've written a lot about it, and I'm excited about it. But AI is not the only area for entrepreneurship. When I look at Impossible Foods or Hampton Creek, you can reinvent food. Just last week, we sold a company called Blue River, which was essentially doing mechanical weeding of agricultural fields. What more important thing could you change in agriculture than eliminate herbicides? Right. Because you don't need weed to kill weeds. What about 3D printing buildings? Right. We have a great company in Boston that's making robotic furniture, so think Transformer toys with furniture. You can make a 600-foot studio apartment look like a 1,200-foot studio apartment, right, because it transforms. Like, whether it's buildings, construction, food, healthcare by reinventing doctors, whether it's transportation with driverless cars, whether it's new kinds of materials with computational design of materials, almost no area is close to great technology entrepreneurs. And that's what gets me really, really excited. Next month, I'm doing a blog on societal reinvention with technology. And it'll be very broad. It's not just for AI. It's just not for software. It's every part of society can be reinvented.
Wow. Wow. I mean,
we could spend an hour on that.
You just dropped a bomb, and I'm like, geez. So I want to kind of begin to wrap this conversation off a bit to that last point you made around every area of society is ripe for disruption. You talk, and I think this is really important for entrepreneurs to hear as well.
Can I give you just one very fun example?
Yeah, go ahead.
We invested in a Toronto-based company, Atomwise.
Yes.
They had a different name.
It was Comatria back in the days. Yeah.
Right? So I introduced them to the CEO of a major pharmaceutical company. And the guy said, literally the CEO said, oh, this is so radical because computational design of drugs, right? Using deep learning kinds of techniques. None of my guys will understand it. You call me so I can shepherd this, because if I push it further down in the organization, they won't get it and you get lost. Yeah. That's really the power in all of your hands.
Yes. Right. I think, Vinod, you talk about this a lot as well, that no major innovation in our lifetime will come from large industry.
Well, I looked at the last 25 years. I couldn't find one large innovation to come. As I like to say, CBS and NBC or Rogers didn't reinvent media. It was Twitter and Facebook and YouTube. Walmart didn't reinvent retail. It was Amazon. Boeing and Lockheed didn't reinvent space. It was SpaceX. General Motors didn't reinvent, or Ford didn't reinvent autos. It was Tesla. No large innovations come out of a big player. So all the power in your hands, not the guys you think are big. Yep. And don't worry about partnering with them. You need to upset them, not partner with them. Yep. You get way too lost. I get very excited about this mission. Yeah. It's religion for me.
Absolutely. Listen, you heard it here from someone with a great depth of knowledge. There's no opportunity that is too large. In fact, it is the largest opportunities that entrepreneurs need to be thinking about tackling. And for those corporates that are in the room, be worried.
Be worried and help the young guys out. Maybe you'll get collateral benefit.
There we go. Take those calls. Take those emails. You also heard it here. We're going to wrap this up. The great Vinod Khosla talking about the Toronto innovation ecosystem and it showcasing some of the best and brightest in the world. I think we're going to see more of him here, walking up and down the streets, enjoying our great food and restaurants, and investing in great companies and entrepreneurs here. We can all give a great round of applause to the wonderful Vinod Khosla.
Thank you, everybody.